Welcome to Step 2 of the South Point Hot Cam Installation Guide. In this video, we'll perform the valve clearance inspection and adjustment procedure. The bike should still have the valve cover, spark plug, flywheel inspection cover, and cam chain tensioner assembly removed. In order to complete this procedure, you will also need something to write on. Let's start by going over the required special tools and supplies. You will need a good quality caliper or micrometer. The use of these tools is beyond the scope of this installation guide, but you will need to know how to use them to measure the shims. You will also need a good quality set of angled thickness or feeler gauges. The range of these feeler gauges must be from 1/1000th through 20/1000th of an inch. There are many good pre-bent gauge packages available commercially. We use the Motion Pro set in this procedure. If you don't have a set of pre-bent gauges, you can try bending some of your existing gauges to fit. Although it is always preferable to use gauges that are specifically designed for measuring valve clearances. Since you won't know until you have measured the clearances exactly which shims you will need, you can either wait to purchase the correct shims, or you can order the convenient Hot Cams Shim Kit available for your bike. The Hot Cams Shim Kit contains several of each size shim available for your engine. With the Hot Cam Shim set, you can avoid repeated trips to the dealer, since you will always have the correct part on hand. Rotate the camshaft in the carrier assembly until it is aligned with the mark on the cam carrier. The cam lobes will be facing outwards and not touching the lifters. At this point, the cam should rotate freely in the carrier without friction. Using a feeler gauge, measure the two intake valve clearances as shown. For the intake valves, you will measure the space between the valve lifters and the camshaft. The specified clearance for the intake valves is 0.006 inches or 0.16 millimeters. Write down the actual measurement. Now, measure the exhaust valve clearances. On the Honda Unicam models, you will measure the space between where the exhaust cam rocker arm makes contact with the valve shims on top of the exhaust valves. The specified clearance for the exhaust valves is 0.011 inches or 0.28 millimeters. Now, compare the measured clearances for the intake and exhaust valves. If the measured clearance is more or less than the specified amount, plus or minus the tolerance, you must adjust the shim for that valve. Here is the formula for calculating the new shim size. It is possible that all of the valves are still within tolerance and no shim adjustment will be required, but it is critically important that each of the clearances are within the specified range. To replace a shim, remove the cam carrier assembly as shown in Part 1 and measure the shim you will be replacing. Then, use that value in the formula shown above to calculate the new required shim size. Once you have determined which shims require replacement, purchase and install each of the new shims. Once you have the new shims installed, remeasure the new clearances to make certain that the new shims have resulted in the desired clearance. If not, repeat the shim calculation and replacement process until all four valves have the correct clearance. Lift the camshaft from the engine head and slide it over the end of the camshaft. The holes do not have to align at this point. Now, rotate the crankshaft using the hex wrench until the crankshaft is at top dead center, and then rotate the camshaft until the mark is aligned with the mark on the cam carrier. Ensure that the crankshaft is still at the TDCC mark on the flywheel and that the camshaft is rotated to the alignment mark on the carrier. When the two marks are in exact alignment, insert the cam bolts into the camshaft using a bit of a medium-strength locking agent on the sprocket bolts. Tighten down the bolts to 15 foot-pounds of torque. Tighten down the decompressor bolt on the right side to 18 foot-pounds of torque. Using a long, flat screwdriver, fully retract the cam chain tensioner before inserting it into the engine. Turn the screwdriver clockwise until it stops, then hold the screwdriver in place while inserting the tensioner assembly into the cylinder and tightening down the two bolts. When you have reassembled the engine and are ready to operate, it is extremely important to follow the recommended break-in procedure. This procedure is outlined in the South Point installation software and also in the materials that accompany your hot cam. Run the engine for 20 to 30 minutes at about 3,000 RPM with a light load. Try not to let the bike idle for extended periods while breaking in the hot cam. It is also important to change the oil after the break-in procedure is complete. Be sure to read and follow any additional instructions that came with your hot cam. More detailed repair and maintenance information about your bike can be purchased from South Point at www.southpointmanuals.com. This concludes the hot cam installation. We hope you will enjoy many hours of improved engine performance with your new hot cam.